Is somebody else's tone of voice a trigger for you? That's what we're going to talk about today. But first, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm going to share a little story with you today of my own life. So I had a recent conversation with somebody in my life, and it was going really well, or I thought it was going really well. And then I got off the phone and I didn't feel very good. I felt kind of judged. And I realized that I was really reacting to this person's tone. And I find a lot of times in my practice, and especially in my anger management classes, that people reacting to somebody's tone is a major trigger, okay? And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because our triggers are our responsibility, but tone of voice is a biggie. And I'm wondering if that's a trigger for you. I definitely want you to leave a comment if it is. There's two kinds of tones that tend to trigger people. The first one is an aggressive tone. This is when somebody's angry, they're kind of snarly, they're probably blaming or name calling, and it's scary because they're being aggressive. Now, a side note, the difference between aggressive and assertive is firm but not scary. Aggressive is always scary, okay? It's big. And that tone of voice is always going to be scary. And so we need to be able to set boundaries around that and make sure that we're safe. Because if somebody's too angry and they're getting aggressive, even if it's just verbally, we want to make sure we're backing up and taking care of ourselves. So that tone of voice is pretty common to react to. But here's the second one. The second one is a condescending tone of voice. This one is more difficult because this one's about, I think you should be doing it this way. Why don't you do it this way? So my tone is better than. My tone is, I think I have your answer. The problem is that when you're on the receiving end of that tone, it can be hurtful. And I want to say a caveat here is that sometimes people have tones of voices that they're not even aware of. So I don't want you to jump into they're purposely doing this, they're hurting me, they're aggressive on purpose, because sometimes, believe it or not, people don't realize and recognize how powerful their tone is. So that condescending tone of voice, if you're a codependent, if you're a people pleaser, if you're sensitive or an empath, that can really hurt because we may sense somebody is judging us when really they're not yet. Okay, so part of what I want you to do is really look at, is that tone of voice a trigger? Why is it a trigger for you? And do some writing about that. Because the next step is, if you feel safe enough in your relationship, you might bring it up and say, sometimes I notice I react to certain tones, and you may not have any intention of sounding like this, but sometimes I feel like you're telling me what to do. And sometimes that hurts my feelings. That may be a way to share how somebody's tone impacts you. Another one might be, sometimes when you get really angry, your tone is kind of aggressive and it scares me. And I need to back up when that happens to take care of myself because I get scared. So those are some ways you can take care of yourself around somebody else's tone. Because believe it or not, a lot of people don't recognize how much their tone impacts their communication, especially if somebody comes from a family where everybody had a tone or everybody was loud. So in relationship, they don't recognize it as a problem. So part of what this video is about is for you to recognize, if tone is a trigger for you, here are some simple ways that you can take care of yourself around that. Okay. So the last thing I'm gonna have you do is be sure to hit subscribe if you like this video and you'd like to stay in touch. And I'm gonna put my relationships checklist in the post for you as well, because that's gonna help you assess the quality of your relationships and see what your next steps are. Because the first step in growth, as I said earlier, is awareness. And if you can be aware of how your relationships aren't working, you'll know what to change, whether that's detaching, whether that's you looking at your own behaviors. That's what this checklist is going to help you with. All right, thanks so much. Bye.